Under a haze of dust and broken concrete, Gaza City's eastern district of Shejaiya lies silent but tense. Armed Hamas militants stand guard among the ruins, rifles slung over their shoulders, eyes fixed toward the horizon. Beyond that skyline lies the so-called yellow line, the invisible boundary separating Gaza's urban sprawl from the zone now occupied by Israeli forces. Since the fragile ceasefire took effect, this narrow strip of land has become both a crossing point and a psychological frontier. Behind the line, Israeli troops remain on alert but stationary. Ahead of it, Hamas maintains its own positions. Between them stands a corridor of uncertainty, an uneasy calm that could unravel at any moment. Bulldozers and heavy machinery move slowly through the wreckage, clearing roads once filled with homes and market stalls. The metallic groan of their engines echoes across the flattened landscape. Hamas security units supervise the work, coordinating every motion and maintaining tight control of the area. Even amid this ceasefire, every gesture carries a message that authority here still belongs to the armed group that governs Gaza. Moments later, white vehicles bearing the emblem of the International Committee of the Red Cross appear on the horizon. Their red on white insignia stands out sharply against the grey dust of the city. The convoy halts near a checkpoint manned by Hamas fighters. Communication is brief, a nod, a radio call, the wave of a hand. Each vehicle's movement must be authorized, timed and logged. This coordination is part of a delicate, high-risk operation that has unfolded every day since the truce began. For the Red Cross, this mission is one of immense emotional and logistical complexity. The recovery and handover of hostages. According to official figures, Hamas has released 20 surviving captives and transferred the remains of 28 deceased individuals. Each transfer involves multiple layers of approval. Hamas officials, Israeli liaisons, and international mediators stationed in Cairo and Doha. In this small stretch of road, the politics of war and the protocols of humanity intersect. The quiet rhythm of the operation belies its fragility. Israel has accused Hamas of delaying the return of several captives, while Hamas insists that Israel has not fully withdrawn its armoured units beyond the agreed line. These mutual accusations hang over the ceasefire like a cloud, invisible but heavy, always threatening to burst. Around them, the physical landscape tells its own story. Apartment blocks stand like skeletons, their facades peeled away by months of bombardment. Children watch from makeshift shelters as the convoys pass. The air smells of dust and diesel. For civilians, the ceasefire has offered only partial relief. There is no true peace here, only a temporary pause in the noise of war. Electricity remains scarce, water sporadic, and communications unreliable. Humanitarian aid enters Gaza in measured quantities, enough to sustain life, but never enough to restore it. Every truck that crosses the yellow line represents hope measured by rations and fuel drums. The yellow line itself, though invisible, has become one of the most important coordinates in this conflict. It marks the extent of Israel's ground withdrawal and defines the perimeter within which international agencies may operate. Established through marathon negotiations involving Egypt, Qatar, and the United Nations, it represents both progress and paralysis. Progress in that fighting has stopped, paralysis because the status quo remains unaltered. For the Red Cross, neutrality is the passport that allows its teams to cross this space. Their convoys are the only vehicles that can pass freely between Gaza and Israeli-controlled territory. The organization's staff know that every journey carries risk from miscommunication, misfire, or mistrust. And yet, each mission proceeds, because for the families of the hostages and the victims, these journeys are the only link to closure. At one checkpoint, a Red Cross field officer steps out of his vehicle, clipboard in hand. He reviews documents, exchanges a few words with a Hamas representative, then signals to his drivers. Engines start. A convoy of 3 vehicles rolls forward, escorted briefly by armed militants. For a fleeting moment, the choreography feels almost routine, as though war has its own version of bureaucracy. This operation marks the 10th exchange since the ceasefire took effect. Each phase alternates between the release of survivors and the transfer of bodies. For Israel, it is a grim accounting of loss and endurance. For Hamas, it is an opportunity to project control and legitimacy before a watching world. For the Red Cross, it is a mission of pure humanitarian principle carried out amid the debris of politics. Officials in Jerusalem emphasize that the truce does not mean an end to the conflict. We will respond to any provocation, one Israeli spokesperson has said. Our security responsibility remains supreme. Hamas counters that it will continue to resist what it calls occupation forces as long as Israeli troops remain inside Gaza's perimeter. Thus, even within calm, the language of confrontation persists. Above the city, unarmed drones circle in slow arcs, part of an international verification system designed to monitor compliance with the ceasefire.
Their hum is constant, mechanical, a reminder that even silence here is surveilled. On the ground, civilians gather quietly near the damaged facades of what used to be shops and apartment buildings.
One woman, her face covered in dust, tells a journalist, "We only want them to stop both sides. We don't want our children to live in fear again." Her words echo across the ruins, capturing a truth deeper than any political statement, that the people of Gaza crave peace not as a slogan, but as survival. Diplomatic sources confirm that coordination for these transfers runs through a complex network. Egyptian and Qatari mediators maintain daily contact with both parties, while Red Cross officials handle logistics on the ground. Each movement is scheduled within a narrow window to avoid airspace violations or misinterpretations by Israeli defense units stationed just beyond the horizon. By late afternoon, the light in Shejaiya begins to soften. Shadows stretch across the rubble as the temperature cools. Bulldozers slow their pace, and the rumble of machinery fades into the background. The Red Cross convoy waits at the edge of the district, a row of white vehicles coated in dust, engines idling softly. A Hamas guard adjusts his rifle and wipes sweat from his brow. They wait for the signal to move beyond the yellow line. In that pause lies the essence of the truce, a fragile coexistence defined by waiting, watching, and withholding. No gunfire, no airstrikes, no shouting, only the sound of engines and wind through shattered windows. Within hours, additional convoys are expected to enter Gaza, carrying medical supplies, water purification systems, and diesel for hospital generators. Humanitarian agencies warn that unless these supplies increase dramatically, Gaza's infrastructure will soon reach the point of collapse. Nearly 2 million residents depend on daily aid shipments coordinated through Rafah and Kerem Shalom. Every crossing requires diplomatic clearance and security guarantees, making the process slow and unpredictable. This fragile choreography, militants standing guard, bulldozers carving paths, Red Cross vehicles inching forward, defines Gaza's uneasy peace. Each movement depends on the assumption that the other side will not break the silence. Every moment of calm is conditional, temporary, and deeply uncertain. For international observers, the yellow line is more than a military demarcation. It has become a symbol of the war's current phase, not victory, not defeat, but suspension. The world watches counting days without gunfire as if they were milestones of peace. Yet beneath that calm lies the question of what comes next, and whether this truce can evolve into something more lasting. As dusk descends, the sky above Gaza turns from gold to ash. The Red Cross convoy finally begins to move, its headlights cut through the haze as drivers steer cautiously toward the horizon. Behind them, Hamas fighters remain at their posts, silhouetted against the fading light. None speak, none wave. They simply watch as the vehicles disappear toward the east, toward the unseen soldiers on the other side of the yellow line. For now, the ceasefire holds. The exchange continues. The machinery of relief and control grinds forward. In Gaza, for now, is the only promise anyone can make, a promise measured not in months or even days, but in hours, of silence between the echoes of war.